something. Without the fan base, you're nothing. And then they go on to try to steal money from their fan base, and then they end up in a giant hole asking what happened, when it's like, well, your greed is what happened. GTA is going to either make or legitimately break the gaming industry as a whole, and it's scary to think about, but that is just a fact. It's like handing your baby to a guy that's like, I'll take care of your baby. By the way, I love Diddy. It's like, oh, I probably shouldn't hand you my baby then. Welcome back to my channel, everybody. My name is Trey Fab. I'm a React content creator / streamer. I like to react to everything, whether that be drama nonsense to basketball insight. So if you like the modern NBA, I'm the guy for you. And if you like brain rot content, I'm the guy for you. I also like to stream myself playing video games from time to time and make WWE content videos. So with that being said, today I'm going to be reacting to Internet Anarchist, the sad, gritty death of LittleBigPlanet. This was a game I used to play when I was younger. I'm very interested on what he has to say as far as like the sad, gritty death of it. Let's get this shit started.
What's the biggest threat to the survival of a beloved game? Is it
microtransactions? Okay, we can finish the video now. Thanks for joining my video, guys. If you like the content, please like, comment, subscribe. Like, I'm sorry. I feel like that's the easy microtransactions. There we go. Let's keep going.
A, an uncaring developer who's moved on to something else, B, an inattentive publisher who only cares about profits, or C, a ruthless hacker whose only objective is to cause chaos? For LittleBigPlanet, the answer was all three. It went from a staple of Sony's PlayStation consoles with millions of loyal fans, to an abandoned mess with dead servers and no plans for a comeback. Hi, I'm the Internet Anarchist. I create weekly YouTube documentaries, and today, we're taking a closer look at the sad death of LittleBigPlanet, how it reached the sorry state it's in today, what made it popular in the first place, and how some people are still hopeful for its return. But as you'll see by the end of this video, that's looking increasingly unlikely with each passing day. That said, to fully understand the tragedy of LittleBigPlanet, we first have to go back to where it all started. LittleBigPlanet was the brainchild of Alex Evans and Mark Healy, two of the names behind the now legendary Fable. After witnessing a
oh my god. Oh my god. I don't know if you got... Oh my god. I loved Fable as a kid. I used to play this game all the fucking time. I suggest that if you guys are into older games, you don't mind graphics too much, I would give Fable a shot. I believe they're making a new Fable as well that should be coming out in the next year or so, and I am fucking excited for that. I love the concept of it. You get to choose to be good, you get to choose to be evil, and depending on your choices will depend on the path that you take, right? It is like older. You could be a wizard. You could be, it's a role-playing type shit. It's fun. It's extremely fun. And I suggest any gamer that's like into any type of just like storytelling games to get this. And it's not choices. When I say choices, I don't mean click A, click B, click X like that. I mean choices as in it's free roam. You get to roam around and do shit. But let's say you go to do a quest and this guy's like, hey, give me like 5 berries to help my daughter like not die. You can decide to say go fuck yourself and walk away. You never see that guy again, and then you get something called like demon points and angel points, and then all of a sudden you're like plus 50 demon points and you're like, what the hell happened? And you find out, you go back to him, right? Because it won't tell you. Like, you go back to him and you find out his daughter died. Like, it's shit like that. I like this game. To me, I think it was ahead of its time. Not graphic wise, but it was a great game, and I think anybody who plays it will enjoy it. Sorry for the little nerd rant there, but this was an extremely fun game. I suggest any gamer that likes role-playing games, storytelling games, and games that help you decide whether you become good or evil type shit, or games with multiple endings, I suggest you play Fable. It is fun.
Layoff at their company, Lionhead Studio, the two decided to leave with 2 more of their colleagues and form their own studio, Media Molecule, with their first title being an ambitious platformer that would go on to become LittleBigPlanet. However, as a ragtag group of artists and programmers, they lacked both the resources and the time to create a fully fledged game, and then simply hoped that it will be a success. They needed funding fast. So after some brainstorming, they quickly put together a bare-bones demo called Mr. Yellowhead in 2005, which, despite its crude graphics, had a lot of gameplay similarities with with the final game. Sony immediately saw the potential in the idea, and after seeing a bit more of the game over the next 6 months, decided to publish it exclusively on their upcoming PlayStation 3 console. LittleBigPlanet was going to be a platform unlike any other, with a unique, timeless art style and an emphasis on player creativity and user-generated content. Sony first unveiled it to the public at the 2007 Game Developers Conference, immediately winning the hearts of thousands who couldn't wait to get their hands on the game. However, Sony wanted it to be ready by the end of the year, including the fully fleshed out level editor. It was hard work, but Media Molecule persevered, managing to deliver on each one of their promises at the game's launch in October of 2008, and the players couldn't have been happier. It sold millions of copies, was adored by the critics, and for a good reason. It had everything players wanted and more. The art style was just incredibly charming, the platforming mechanics were tuned to perfection, it had some of the most versatile character customization.
Yeah, for 2007, 2008, this is not bad looking, especially for back then. A lot of games, doesn't hold its weight in graphic design, especially as the years go on. But this, it's not bad. It's not bad, especially for the time.
Options at the time, and most importantly, the level editor was just as feature-rich and intuitive as everyone had hoped. However, the feature that turned LittleBigPlanet from just another fun game to a cultural phenomenon was its accompanying website, lbp.me. After logging in with their PlayStation Network account, players could share their own creations or dive into an ever-growing library of levels made by others. Put simply, there was an essentially endless supply of fresh content. Within just a year of the game's launch, players had already uploaded over 1 million unique levels, collectively playing them more than 240 million times. What players didn't know at the time was that this website would also become a big reason for the game's downfall, but for the time being, it was what kept players hooked long past a typical platformer's shelf life. Media Molecule also kept working on the game, patching out bugs, adding new cosmetic options, and releasing DLC content to keep fans happy. And it worked, with a review from back in the day stating, "LittleBigPlanet is perfect. It's as simple as that." What these satisfied players didn't realize was that their favorite game was about to become a whole lot better. The explosive success of LittleBigPlanet gave Media Molecule the confidence to start working on a sequel immediately after the first game's release. However, players weren't as enthusiastic about a sequel as you might imagine, and the reason was simple: the level editor. Many had poured countless hours into crafting over 3 million unique levels by this point. If the new game was incompatible with their creations, all their hard work would have gone to waste. This wouldn't have just hurt the sequel's sales, it risked splitting the LittleBigPlanet community in two. Those eager to explore the new tools and mechanics, and those unwilling to abandon the treasure trove of player-made content they'd come to love. Fortunately, Media Molecule understood this challenge better than most, and spent a lot of resources looking for a solution. Then, on the 10th of May 2010, they announced LittleBigPlanet 2, showcasing the sheer amount of variety that was possible with the new level editor. The new and improved creative toolset allowed players to create not just platforming levels, but entirely different game genres, with Media Molecule going as far as to claim that it wasn't just a quote platform game, instead was going to be quote a platform for games. Above all, they reassured the fanbase that LittleBigPlanet 2 would be fully backwards compatible with the previous title.
I am so interested on what ended up happening with this game and why it ended up flopping as hard as it did. You gotta keep in mind, I was a little baby when a lot of this shit happened, so I'm not really, my memory doesn't serve me right as far as what went on. I just remember really liking the game. But it seems like you have a company that actually cared about the transition of having one game to the other, working with the players, working with the fan base, and making sure that the game in itself is not just some shit game that they throw out there for a lot of money and they get no return except just a basic platformer that many people don't like. They were very heavily focused on player engagement and making sure they're happy. So I'm very lost in what ended up happening. You have LittleBigPlanet 2 that says it's backward compatible with LittleBigPlanet 1, and you're saying that with this game, we're making sure that you guys are able to do what you love to do and take the levels that you already made and bring it to this one. It's interesting. I probably am going to end up getting sad, but the biggest downfall I feel with like most games is they lose what made them big in the first place. A lot of these games do not understand that you are nothing without the fan base that empowered you to make the game sequels to begin with, and without the fan base you're nothing, and then they go on to try to steal money from their fan base, and then they end up in a giant hole asking what happened, when it's like, well, your greed is what happened. And that seems to be like the biggest thing, especially when it comes to content like this, right? Now, I could be wrong, and like I said, we're about to find out. But I just feel like that's the biggest issue with every game that you guys can think of. Whenever you guys can sit there and say, this game sucks, this game's ass, this game's trash, and it's garbage, really go back and think, like, why is it ass? Why is it trash? Why is it garbage? And you can really dissect it to fuck. It's because they added microtransactions. It's because it's buggy as hell and it's like a $60 game. It's because every time I load up, there's not much content to even have fun with, and it just seems completely rushed through, even with the content I do have to play with. It just feels like it's money grabbing, and then you go back to like the first couple games that they made, you're like, damn, this feels like hard work, sweat, and tears was put into this. You get what I'm saying? So we'll see what happens, but let's keep going.
The game finally came out in January of 2011, and to no one's surprise, it quickly became the favorite of both the critics and longtime players.
The first LittleBigPlanet game was great. It was amazing. It was the start of an awesome community, and it did some really creative things. It gave people a ton of tools to work with to create some great levels. But if you take a look at its sequel, there's really no reason to go back.
It was the perfect sequel, which made everything better without destroying what players loved about the original. This also resulted in it becoming a massive financial success, selling over 350,000 copies in its first couple of weeks, and becoming the fourth most sold game in January 2011. Unfortunately, it was all downhill from here. Now, you'd think that after two wildly successful releases, Media Molecule would keep the momentum going and knock the third entry out of the park. However, before players had the chance to get their hopes up, they received devastating news. Media Molecule was handing over the development of the third game to a different studio, Sumo Digital, a studio that had little experience with the franchise.
Okay. Oh, there you go. I don't know. I'm not mad at developers handing over a project from one team to another, especially if it's like, hey, we love this project. It's something we've been doing, but it's something that we just can't work on anymore. We're taking a leave of absence. We're going to spend some time with ourselves, time with our families. We're just done making this game. Okay. Fair. But then my question kind of stands like, why can't you make sure that whatever developers that end up taking your game end up being a team that actually cares about putting blood, sweat, and tears into the game that you put blood, sweat, and tears into? Why don't you make sure that they are able to be holding, like they're held accountable and they're holding the pleasure of the fan base as the top priority? Because I promise you, I don't even know what happened yet. And like I said, we're about to find out. But I promise you what ended up happening here is they lost the pleasure with the fan base. They didn't give them everything they wanted. And they tried to rush it out and make it as cheap and fast as possible. Could be that. Nah, could be wrong. But I feel like that's probably what ended up happening. If I'm wrong, I'll go ahead and pause and say, hey, I guess I'm wrong. But you gotta make sure, if you're gonna give your project to another team, you gotta vet the team, bro. Like, come on. I'm not fully blaming the first development team for the downfall of LittleBigPlanet. But if you really cared a lot about your product that you made, this is your baby. This is your baby. It's like handing your baby to a guy that's like, I'll take care of your baby. By the way, I love Diddy. It's like, oh, I probably shouldn't hand you my baby then.
Was going to be an uphill battle. Not only did Sumo have to improve upon the already fantastic LittleBigPlanet 2, they had to do it while keeping it backwards compatible with the millions of levels players created for the previous two games. And since they were replacing a respected studio, they also risked angering the existing fans with even the tiniest mistake. Unfortunately for Sumo, things did not get off to a good start. They drastically cut down the scope of the game, removing several characters, storylines, and planned features from the third game. And if that wasn't bad enough, Sony stepped in and made things even worse. Instead of helping the studio with more time and resources, Sony barged in one day and ordered them to make a version for the upcoming PlayStation 4 as well. In other words, Sumo now had to create two different versions of the game they were already struggling to complete in time. This was catastrophic for the game's development, something that would become apparent the second it was released to the public. LittleBigPlanet 3 came out in November of 2014, and it was by far the glitchiest, most unfinished entry into the franchise. Players were struggling to play user-generated levels, and in many instances, wiping their save files was the only way to get past the error message. And
see, this is... Bro, this is what I'm talking about. Like, I don't understand. And I'm not going to hate on the developers too hard here then. Because like I said, I would pause and say I'm wrong. So I guess they did try to keep what made the fans happy in the upcoming installments. But now where the issue comes in is, hey, the fucking studio barges in, puts their dick on the table, and goes, hey buddies, we want these games made fast, and not only do we want these games made fast, or this game made fast, we want you to make a follow-up for the PlayStation 4. We want 2 different versions for 2 different consoles, and we want them made fast. I don't understand why these studio companies are so hawkish on making sure they hit deadline on times, when it's like for example, right, GTA is not coming out until what? Next May? It was supposed to come out this winter. It's coming out next May. GTA better not have a single fucking glitch with it. I will tell you that right now. But my assumption, my hope, and my desire is that GTA took this long time to develop the most flawless, impeccable, amazing game that they can for the fan base, for the GTA lovers, and for casual gamers in general. They want to make sure on launch that this game is ready to go, ready to play. And as much as people are complaining about, oh, it's taking forever for the game to release, oh, it's gonna be like $100 for the standard, there's complaints, and these complaints are valid. It's still probably going to be one of the most highest sold games ever. I would put my money on that. If there was like something I could bet on, like a betting site where will GTA be one of the most highest sold games ever, I'll say the first week, because obviously you have games like Tetris, right? And you have games like even Minecraft that are still selling copies. But I mean, like, in the first week, this will probably be one of the most played, highest sold games ever within the first week. Which is going to be a feat, but I think it will cover that. And I think it's smart for them to be like, we're not going to release this game until we are absolutely ready. And I don't know why there's studio companies like Sony that's like, no, fuck that. We don't care if you guys are ready or not. We have a date that we promised to the fans and we're going to stick to it. It's like, no, why don't you guys just tell the fans, just give it a minute. Give us a few more months. Give us a year. No one's saying you gotta take GTA time, okay? No one's saying that. But why not just push it out? I'm a small-time, 232 subscriber content creator, okay? Sometimes I will be so busy that I'm not able to create a video, go live, or create a YouTube short because of everything I got going on in my life. And I refuse to go on here and push out just nonsense content where I've said nothing, where I've done nothing, where there's nothing for me to provide and not just sat here and watch a video. So, there'll be some days I don't have a video. And I am a small content creator, React content creator. That's what I am, okay? Now, you are a giant company. You have way more leeway than I do. If I go without posting for like 4 or 5 days, I may lose subscribers. But if I have to do that to make sure I'm giving you guys quality over quantity, I'll do that. But you are a giant studio, and you guys are telling me that you can't take a break for a few months to a year to make sure your product is good? Why would you want to put out a bad product so now the franchise gets a bad name and it's dead on arrival? It just, my brain doesn't really connect these things. That's why I think GTA is probably going to be a great game, and it better be. And that's why a franchise like LittleBigPlanet, as big as it should have been, died. And it's sad. It is greed. I'm telling you guys, greed, greed, greed. They wanted money fast, because they could have waited. Sony, they could have waited, but they didn't want to wait. They wanted to get the money. They wanted that money as fast as they could get it. And they ended up suffering in the long run for it.
This was just the tip of the iceberg. Sometimes the game crashed bad enough to nearly brick the console it was running on. Sumo tried to fix these glitches with patches, but the core issues never went away. With one angry player on Reddit writing, 1 year later, and LittleBigPlanet 3 is still broken. This is unacceptable. The online barely functions, and there's still glitches where I fell off levels. On top of that, there's still many crashes. The broken game was turning longtime players away from the franchise, with one such person voicing his disappointment, stating, "Man, this game makes me so depressed. I loved the first two so much. Used LittleBigPlanet 2 to propose to my wife, and I was so excited for this one. We haven't touched it in months.
That's actually cute. Used LittleBigPlanet 2 to propose to my wife. My dumbass thought he like pulled out the game and like opened the case with the ring inside. But I'm stupid. I'm assuming he made his wife a level to propose to her. That makes more sense.
Never been let down so hard as I was by this game. But this begs the question, why? Why did Media Molecule abandon its Star franchise to a third-party studio? Well, when asked about it, the studio's community manager stated that they made this decision so that they could focus on their next big project called Dreams. This was a full-blown creation engine that allowed users to make everything from games and animations to music, all on their PS4. Admittedly, this was the next evolution of the creative tools the studio built for LittleBigPlanet 2, but them abandoning the franchise that made them popular in the first place was still the wrong move in many people's eyes. Some might even argue that it would have been better if the third game just never came out, and instead, those resources were spent on updating and maintaining the second. Despite its poor reception, however, its availability on 2 consoles instead of just 1 significantly boosted the game's financial performance, allowing it to sell over 5.5 million copies to date. In an ideal world, these high sales figures would directly translate to more players making more content and extending its shelf life. Unfortunately for the fans, LittleBigPlanet 3 was about to face a challenge far more devastating than the occasional game-breaking bug. In November of 2022, lbp.me, the website cataloging user-generated levels, went down after an attack from unknown hackers. And while the site was restored shortly after, this marked the beginning of its total destruction. You see, the solution Media Molecule came up with for backwards compatibility was to host all of the information on the same server. This made it easier to keep track of player statistics across the 3 different entries. However, even though this method was highly effective, it also came with a serious drawback. Any security vulnerability from the original 2008 LittleBigPlanet now affected everything that followed.
Yeah, this is just lazy. This is just lazy. It's lazy code design. This lazy shit. Like, if you guys are not big within like understanding exactly what happened here, it's like putting all your money under your mattress. Like, you know where it is. You know where it is instead of keeping some of your money in your wallet, some of your money in your bank account, and some of your money in a safe. It's like putting all your money in under your mattress. I mean, it's easy. You know where all your money is. You're just laid on it like Mr. Krabs, and you know where it's at. But the minute you get robbed, you're broke. And that's what happened. You never want to... We literally grew up with these sayings, bro. We grew up with these sayings. I don't understand. We're raised as kids to go, you don't put all your eggs into one basket. And these game developers went, I know that's probably a true saying and a good reason for it, but fuck it. This is video games. Let's put all our eggs in this basket. Okay.
Judging by the sudden website blackout, it was clear that someone had found a way to exploit that vulnerability, and as expected, the hacker returned on the 6th of March 2021 and shut down the game's online functionality with a DDoS attack. Anyone who tried to play a user-generated level was met with an error message stating that a problem had occurred. After staying silent for 4 days, Sumo finally took the servers down on March the 10th, claiming that they did so to, quote, investigate some technical issues. These servers remained offline till May, but even after coming back online, things weren't right. Players were experiencing strange crashes and glitches that were never an issue before. The cycle of Sumo taking the servers down, bringing them back online, and getting attacked by hackers continued a couple of times, before coming to a stop in April 2024. Not because Sumo patched the vulnerability, but because they decided to pull the plug, shutting servers down for good and killing the game completely. The franchise that had held strong for over 15 years was finally dead in the water. Some fans tried to protest this decision online to no avail. They had nowhere left to go. Well, technically, there was one game they could still play, a spin-off called Sackboy: A Big Adventure, which came out in November of 2020. Unfortunately, this version of the game lacked the one feature that made LittleBigPlanet special in the first place: user-generated content, resulting in most fans seeing this spin-off as an insult and hating it with a passion, with one person even equating it to receiving a middle finger from the developers and Sony. In the end, seeing such a beloved game go out like this is just sad. As a YouTube comment puts it, as much as I'm devastated to see it gone, I think what's even sadder is that I will always see LittleBigPlanet as something that was killed rather than something that just died on its own. There were better ways to handle this than wiping the servers and converting millions upon millions of user-created levels to nothing more than lost media. That being said, some fans are still clinging to hope. Some are wildly speculating based on job listings at Sumo Digital. Others are hatching elaborate plans to resurrect the game themselves, like turning the game's mascot into a viral meme so Sony Sony would see the potential in bringing back the franchise. Sadly, judging by the silence from Sony, Media Molecule, and Sumo Digital, a LittleBigPlanet comeback seems nothing more than a distant dream, at least for now.
That's sad. But this is just... It's sad, but this is exactly what I was talking about earlier, guys. When you're making a product, I don't understand what's up with these large, greedy companies that feel like money is way more important than having a good, dedicated fan base be happy. That's just sad. If you are a large company, who gives a fuck? The money comes with happiness. If fans are happy, they're gonna spend money. But if you make your fans pissed off, it doesn't matter if you get fast money, it doesn't translate to long-term success. And I will never understand why big companies don't understand this. So it is what it is. But that was a good video overall. I liked it. And we'll see what happens moving in the future as far as like Sony goes with their titles. Hopefully GTA comes out and is actually good. They've had more than enough time to make sure it is. And hopefully, you know, studios learn from the likes of GTA. GTA is going to be extremely important. Super important. If GTA comes out and it flops, even if it is really good, gaming companies are going to be reminiscent of the LittleBigPlanet and the Sony situation. Just say, we don't give a fuck about time. Push it out. Push it out. Push it out. And if the GTA comes out and it flops, not because of people not wanting it, but because of how the quality is, then again, same thing with the LittleBigPlanet situation. It's like, oh, GTA had all this time to fix it, and they still didn't fucking fix it. So again, push it out, push it out, push it out. Right? So, GTA, bro, the pressure is on your back. GTA is either going to make or GTA is going to either make or legitimately break the gaming industry as a whole, and it's scary to think about, but that is just a fact. Okay? So we're gonna see what ends up happening in the end. But as far as like the LittleBigPlanet situation, that is sad, and we'll see what happens moving forward. Okay. If you guys have anything you want me to react to, please like, comment, subscribe, and let me know if there's anything you want me to react to. But until next time, friends, I love you. I'll see you. Peace out.